Hello there, and welcome to the Thunderfunking DotAcast. I am Cranberry Thunderfunk, and I am quite pleased, very excited to bring you a best of 5 between LGD China and DK in the semifinals of the Dota 2 Super League. I'm excited about this match for many reasons. The first of two are the teams involved. DK and LGD have been performing pretty well recently. DK in particular, I've really enjoyed watching their evolution out of a 4 Protect 1 into something a little more diverse. But DK is nevertheless always kind of fun to watch, even when they're doing the 4 Protect 1, because of how absurd Burning is. Burning is pretty much undisputed as the best carry player in the world. And you might ask, oh, but what supports such an over-exaggerated statement? Well, it's his absurd stats. He averages 263 last hits every game. That's his average. That's 20 higher than the closest, who I believe that's Mushi on Orange that has the second slot. And while his goal per minute is actually it's in second place right now, just behind Loda of Alliance. The disparity there is mostly because Alliance has been on an absurd winning streak, and of course when you win games, your GPM tends to go up just a little bit. As a farmer, Burning is unmatched, and he also has, I think his average deaths per game is 2.6. I mean, just think about that. The average number of deaths that he has in any given game is less than 3. Even when he's losing. Like, that's mind-bogglingly good. And what makes him such an absurd carry player, and probably the best in the world. He doesn't always show off the most, like he's not a big play sort of guy. He's just a monster. And if you let him farm, similar to, he's kind of a corollary to Black of Mouse Sports, who has, I think, pretty much the equivalent stats for the Western scene. Not as good as Burning, but fairly close, and definitely more closer than other Western carry players. But Burning, he's the top of the pile for the 1 position, and he always gets just crazy amounts of farm, and it's always fun to watch him bust out the absurd gold per minute. The bans off the beginning here are fairly straightforward. Most notably here, you will not see a Wisp or a Treant Protector. Not that either team won't pick that up, but it's just interesting that the Chinese teams continue to value those much less than the Western scene. Now, many of the Southeast Asian teams value Treant Protector quite a lot because of how much he enables aggression, and he can make lanes work that don't otherwise work. But China, they just don't see the value, or perhaps they just don't like playing with Wisp or with Treant Protector. LGD have run the Wisp Chaos Knight, and they used it to basically stomp Invictus Gaming earlier in the Dota 2 Super League. IG were not capable of standing up to that combo. But it's just fascinating to see. I mean, Wisp never makes it past the first picks or first bans in the Western scene ever. So it really shows you that there's a lot of different priorities going on between these two teams. LGD start off with the Alchemist and Shadow Demon, which is a pretty good combo there. They could run the Alchemist mid, or he could be a part of a tri-lane. Either one is quite viable. Shadow Demon works pretty nicely with the Unstable Concoction in a similar way to Bane, because the 2.5 second disruption allows a lot of time for the Unstable Concoction to charge up. Makes for a pretty reliable stun combo. And it also gives Alchemist for time to get on top of the target in lane, because Alchemist does have a little bit of trouble staying on top of the enemy, being a rather lumbering slow melee hero. DK go for the Dragon Knight and the Weaver. Would assume that would be a Dragon Knight mid. And Weaver, he's usually run as a part of, he usually has as a 1 position. Sometimes Western teams will use Weaver as an offlaner, sometimes in that 2 or 3 slot. But DK, I believe it'll be burning on that Weaver, and so we can expect Weaver to be in the safe lane and to farm up a Storm.
LGD's turn to pick.
Which Weaver, it's a good burning hero because Weaver depends on getting tons of farm to have the impact necessary for him to be a viable pick in any game. If an underfarmed Weaver, more so than many other carries, just doesn't do a whole lot. He can get experience, even if you get a lot of levels on him. It's just not that good. Geminate attack depends on having plus attack damage. Things like a Daedalus, Desolator, probably Desolator more than Daedalus because you can't crit on your Geminate attack, and in fact no attack modifiers apply on the second attack of Geminate. But Desolate, the debuff stays, and so you get the bonus damage from the minus armor.
LGD's turn to pick.
DK also pick up the Clockwork and the Earthshaker, so they've got really good stuns so far. I'm not sure where the Earthshaker fits into this lineup. The one nice thing is that he will proc off of those illusions from Shadow Demon, so under certain circumstances he'll have a more powerful Echo Slam than he might have otherwise. But that's kind of it's a very soft counter pick right there. And it's also unlikely that this will be a roaming Earthshaker, particularly because I think the lanes for DK are going to be very strong. It's likely to be a Clockwork off lane with a Dragon Knight mid, and they don't generally need too much assistance.
10 seconds remaining.
The supports for DK basically just need to guarantee that Burning is getting his farm, and if necessary, rotate to other lanes, which Earthshaker is decent at doing, but compared to things like a Lina or a Leshrac, or comparably the Shadow Demon and Jakiro on LGD, Earthshaker tends to struggle a little bit if he has to rotate early because that's a cost to his farm, it's a cost to his levels, and he basically offers one Fissure, and then he's out of mana. And there's no natural mana regen available unless they pick up a Crystal Maiden, which would be a viable pick. Would actually be quite good to round out DK's lineup. LGD pick up the Magnus, and Magnus, that's another interesting divergence between the Western and Eastern scene. The Western scene has basically dropped Magnus from the metagame. Not that he actually did appear yesterday in, I believe it was Fnatic versus Virtus Pro? No, Dignitas versus Virtus Pro. Dazzle! Hell yes! Dazzle! Fucking love Dazzle! But Magnus still remains prevalent in the Chinese scene because of he's just a fantastic teamfight hero. You can always come back if you have a Magnus, because one big reverse polarity combined with a skewer can be totally devastating. He's a pretty strong mid, and with the Magnus, we can assume that this will be an Alchemist tri-lane with the Shadow Demon and Jakiro. He's still a decent mid, even with the nerf to Bottle Crow. He gets a reliable farm from the Shockwave, and you want him to get his 6 as early as possible so he can start ganking lanes and also pick up his Blink Dagger as soon as possible. The Dazzle pick is very interesting from DK. I'm going to have to ponder this for a little bit. I have not actually cast a Dazzle match yet. He's been picked once or twice. I think at least one of those times was as a kill combo with Shadow Demon, where Shadow Demon, he disrupts somebody, the illusions spawn, and you are guaranteed a 3-hero Shadow Wave, which ends up being like 240 damage at level 1, something absurd. And that's on a really low cooldown with a really low mana cost. It's really, really powerful. But that combo will not be in this game. So I'm just curious to see why DK go for the Dazzle. It's a very greedy lineup they have right now, because Dazzle is a level-dependent support that also, he really needs farm in order to have much relevance in the game. He's one of those supports that if he ends up stuck at level 3 or level 4 10 minutes into the game, he doesn't provide a lot. He's got his Shallow Grave on a rather long cooldown, and he's got his Poison, which he won't be able to have to level 3 for the stun. So we'll have to see how DK want to run this. Going through the lineups on the Radiant side. Sylar, he'll be playing the 1 position on LGD on that Alchemist. Xiao 8, he'll be on Magnus. DD on Jakiro. DDC, on Shadow Demon, and Yao on that Nature's Prophet. For DK on the Dire side, we've got ROTK playing Clockwork, Burning on Weaver, MMY on Earthshaker, Super on Dragon Knight, and QQQ on Dazzle. And I really fucking love Dazzle. Dazzle is the shit.
30 seconds.
They immediately ward the Magic Bush here, so both of these camps will be blocked for LGD. And I'm curious if this ostensibly appears to be an aggressive tri-lane from DK, which I would not have expected. The aggressive tri-lane, it's a riskier place to farm for Burning, and DK traditionally like to guarantee Burning's farm.
The battle begins.
It could work though. They've got the sustain necessary from Dazzle, so they can be really aggressive. Dazzle's Shallow Grave kind of operates in a similar way to Treant Protector's Living Armor, in that that's 5 seconds of you aren't gonna die, and for someone like Weaver, that's a very, very viable pickup. QQQ skills his Shadow Wave first. It looks like DK wants to be aggressive here. And before anything happens, I'll go through the other lanes. Dragon Knight versus Magnus. It's going to be a pretty even matchup. They're both going to be bottle crowing. Almost guaranteed. Dragon Knight will have decent sustain so he can withstand the harass of Shockwave. And I like the choice by Zhao 8 to get the Empower level 1. That's going to help his harass against Super by quite a lot, and will also enable his last hitting pretty decently on top of that. Up at top, it's Clockwork versus Nature's Prophet, which that's a somewhat uncommon matchup. I think it favors Nature's Prophet a little bit, but it will depend on good Cogs harass from ROTK. With the Rocket Flare, he'll be able to farm the Treants somewhat reliably, so he has ROTK has that going for him. But the harass from Yao, he doesn't have to be in range of the Cogs to auto-attack. Of course, as I say that, RTK pops the Cogs and starts that harass going. So that'll be really the only weakness for Yao in this lane, is if he continually gets hit by the Cogs, then he will struggle a little bit. But it should be fairly close regardless. LGD's defensive tri-lane should be able to guarantee Sylar's farm. They have to be really careful. The X factor here is the Earthshaker Fisher. If MMY gets a good block off and makes it so that one of the heroes in LGD have a long way to go to escape, D can have a pretty decent ability to harass from long range and continue the chase, particularly once Dazzle hits level 2. Now, this is, again, one of the problems of Dazzle is he's so level dependent. You want the Poison Touch, but you also want the Shallow Grave, and if his choice there can really make or break the difference of this lane. If he doesn't have the Shallow Grave and Burning drops really low, then it is basically his fault if he dies. So it's a tough choice, and it's going to be a while before QQQ manages to get his 3. The lucky thing for... Actually, this ward, I think, actually blocks LGD's own pull, so that... It's a bit of a warding mistake here from LGD. They could be doing their own pulling here, but because to try and deward the Magic Bush, they placed it, I think, too close, and you can see it's still blocking both camps, so... unfortunate mistake from LGD, and that's actually gonna help favor DK in this aggressive tri-lane. Bottles are both up on the mids. They're neck and neck, 14 and 2, 12 and 7 on Zhao 8. I don't expect there to be a big gap there. It'll depend on... I think there's a slight advantage for LGD and... Oh! Where the hell did that courier go down? Courier? It was right here. So, wow. Big miss micro from DK, and that's got a bottle on it too, which ROTK was depending on for his sustain in this lane. So that's good news for Yao, and nice gold boon for the rest of LGD. So I really don't know why it was right there.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Big mistake. And that's also trouble for mid, too. Super, he was probably depending on the Bottle Crow to compete in this lane, and Zhao 8 will probably be doing his own Bottle Crowing as well. But yeah, one thing I do like about LGD's lineup here is that being on the defensive tri-lane, it's a lot easier for them, for the supports here, to rotate. Now, Sylar will probably not get any farm if he's left alone, but if they're able to secure a kill on another lane as a result of their rotation, then that's totally worth it. And Shadow Demon and Jakiro are both really strong rotation supports. I mean, the Ice Path, long range stun, disruption, really good setup. Particularly with Magnus, makes for an easy skewer. So without the ability to Bottle Crow and the rune picked up by Zhao 8, Super's going to be falling behind in mid. Down in bottom lane, Sour is a little bit behind Burning, which I think is to be expected. Burning is a ranged hero, and there's good harass from both Dazzle and Burning, as well as the threat from Fisher, so Sour really can't step too far forward, lest he risk dying, and that would be unacceptable. rotk with the death of the courier is forced to do the walk of shame. Walk all the way back to base. He's not yet hit level 6. That's another bit of sadness for him. If he'd hit level 6, he could rotate down to bottom and potentially make something happen here. But such is not the case. Continue warding of this this pull, make sure that LGD will not be able to get any extra experience for their supports. It's basically it's a wash down in bottom lane. The real question is just how much DK's other lanes are going to be able to provide as we get into the mid game. Oh, there's a disruption. Ice Path, Soul Catcher. Do they have the damage necessary to take QQQ down? This unstable concoction lands, but he gets the Shallow Grave off just in time. Will he be able to live through this? Burning, he's dropping low. Can he get outside the Acid Spray in time? No, he cannot. Acid Spray AoE is just too big, so DDC, he actually picks up the last hit there. Super, he actually eats the Unstable Concoction. There's the reverse polarity used. Fisher will delay this a little bit, but finished off with the Shockwave from Zhao 8. Bad news for DK. They got nothing out of their rotation down the bottom, and that's a death on Super, who provided no meaningful assistance in his rotation down to bottom. And that's I mean, they had to use the reverse polarity for it, but that's really okay. It's unlikely that there's going to be any big team fights where that reverse polarity will be necessary. I expect the laning stage to continue kind of as is for the next few minutes, at least until the reverse polarity is back off cooldown again. LGD are happy to continue the status quo after picking up first blood as well as a second kill. QQQ is rotating mid. There's a nice ward here from LGD, so they know exactly where he is. This is not a surprise to Zhao 8 whatsoever. And having only level 1, well, he's got level 2 Poison Touch now, so he is focusing that, which I think is the right decision. Once you get it to level 3, it will proc a 1 second stun after a delay, as well as a pretty significant slow, so it's a very nice disable, and can set up for nice ganks because it's a fairly long range spell. But with that ward there, no chance of him being able to get anything done. The one nice thing for DK in this bottom lane is that Burning continues to outfarm Sylar, even with the 2 deaths and a bit of loss of control of the lane. Burning continues to get his farm, which that's probably the most important aspect of this lane. There are sentries up on DDC. Pops the disruption, Soul Catcher, Ice Path. Wow, this chain stun is deadly. The Shallow Grave is used. Is Burning gonna be able to make it out of this? He's got 2 stacks of Shadow Poison on him, so there's no chance. Shadow Poison is really, really good versus Shallow Grave. Like, really good. All DDC has to do is just wait, and it's the perfect spell to deal with a hero that drops down to 1 HP and is just about to escape. So Burning goes down. Things are looking a little grim here for DK. And meanwhile, this whole time, Yao up at top has been farming happily. Looks to be going for his Midas.
Coming in.
LGD continues I think they're happy to leave their supports down here, even if they're not getting much experience or farm. Especially now that the pole is no longer warded, so they can start doing that. Do they have any tangos to complete the chain pull? That's the question. They do not, so they won't be able to chain pull this unless they get a quelling blade or some tangos, because they have no natural way of destroying the trees, at least without macropyre available. You don't really want to use that just to complete a chain pull. And the reason I mention that is just that otherwise, in order to actually deny creeps here and get a lot of experience out of these camps, they're forced to stack or to do these kind of like one-off pulls. You're getting less overall experience than you might otherwise. There's 4 hovering around mid for DK. I think they feel a little lost. They've given up on that bottom lane. They sent Burning up the top, where he will farm pretty happily. And if Yao shows up again, he won't have any problem dealing with Nature's Prophet. But I think the problem for DK is they've got these underleveled supports, which they're not particularly, compared to the supports in LGD, they're not all that underleveled, but they're definitely more reliant on their levels. Jakiro, he has his Ice Path, and that's really what matters, at least as far as the early and first half of the mid game are concerned. Shadow Demon similarly, I mean, the Purge will be fantastic, but his disruption, it's 2.5 seconds at all levels, and it's providing the same amount of disable regardless of how it's done. A lot of harass here from Burning, and this is what I meant. Nature's Prophet really can't stand up to Weaver at all.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
So Burning manages to secure a continued free farm up in that top lane. No points in Grievel's Greed picked up for Sylar.
Top tower is under attack.
I'm not sure if that was a impromptu choice made based on the fact that he wasn't getting many last hits in that lane and wanted to secure kills, and definitely the Unstable Concoction was important in securing the kills that he did get. But it does mean that his farm is not going to be that fantastic, especially given the slow start that he had early on. RTK's level 8 and he's got his hookshot. He would love to make something happen, but there's just not a lot of burst damage available from DK right now. Earthshaker's certainly not enough. They really need Burning or Super to be there to make a kill happen. And even then, it's really dangerous. There's just a really good set of stuns from LGD down here. Makes it very dangerous to go in. Zhao 8 has rotated up the top with Yao over in middle. I think Zhao 8... Actually, no, he chooses just to go straight back to... Oh, he goes to challenge the rune. That's what he's doing. He's picked up his Blink Dagger already, which 12 minutes... That's really good timing for a Magnus Blink Dagger, and it's a scary sight for DK. With 3 melee heroes, Clockwork, Earthshaker, DK, I think the positioning for DK is going to be a challenge to prevent Zhao 8 from landing big reverse polarities. The one nice thing I think that DK have going for them is the Shallow Grave, but again, the levels. The problem with early Shallow Grave is the low range on it. 550 range means that you're potentially within access of the reverse polarity, and if Dazzle gets caught inside of that, then there's no decent support for DK in these fights. So as much as I love Dazzle, I have to kind of continue to question the pick a little bit. I'm not sure what it's offering for DK in this game.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Mid-tier 1 starts to take a lot of damage. I think DK will be happy to pick this tower up, although there is a rotation here. RTK has his hookshot, but I don't know if DK has the damage necessary to challenge this. LGD can continue the push, or they may choose just to back off. They don't have vision of RTK or MY back here. All they see is QQQ. But they know they're not on the map, so that may be all they really need to know. Midas is up on Yao, so he's going to get the farm ball rolling relatively soon. Sylar, does he have anything on the way? Not yet. So I think we're going to continue to see a passive game from at least DK. DK, they're on the back foot. They're behind about 1,500 gold, 2,500 experience, and that's without any towers down. And I believe that LGD will be they have the better pushing lineup. Yao, once he picks up a Shadow Blade or whatever his first item is, it's going to be influential for Nature's Prophet's pushing abilities, and there's no comparable ability on DK. They're not particularly good at pushing. Although it's a nice steal of a stack. It's good for them. I think that was only stacked twice, so it's not that big of a deal. I think they were hoping to catch a support there. With Chainmail, it looks like Yao's going to be going for a Mechanism, which I can support that choice. Yep, going for the Buckler, so he will be picking up a Mechanism this game. Will help the team fight of LGD, as well as their pushing power, pretty decently. And I think you could go for the Shadow Blade split push with Nature's Prophet, but I think LGD is more interested in team fighting. Their team fight is ostensibly a lot stronger. DK has, especially at this point with a farm disadvantage and with the early tower going the way of LGD. It was denied, but if you're ahead, a tower deny is a little less meaningful than it might be otherwise. RTK has an Invis rune here. He could catch Zhao 8. The battery assault is really powerful. Yeah. He's very nicely positioned from RTK. He steps in front of Zhao 8 to make sure he gets skewered with him. Nice reverse polarity on 2. Will Zhao 8 be able to turn this around? There's an ice path on 2, but no turnaround available for LGD. So good positioning from RTK there, making sure that he was right in front of the skewer and could trap Zhao 8 in the cogs as he tried to escape. Bit of rune luck turning into a kill for DK.
Dire's bottom tower is under
There we
attack.
go. I'm still learning the hotkeys for the gold graphs, or the whatever you call these things on the side, the numbers. With an Ogre Club coming up on Burning, that's going to be a BKB, and it's unfortunate for Burning that he has to go for that so early. You'd really prefer to have something a little more high impact, but I think his priority is just not dying, and because of the large variety of stuns... Oh, there's a Shadow Blade picked up onto Sylar. Unstable Concoction lands on Super, Acid Spray is thrown down. Long duration stun. There's 2 stacks of Shadow Poison. Shallow Grave is used. Is this going to save Super? But the stacks of Shadow Poison are still up, however, and he should go down immediately afterwards. Macropyre is used. QQQ goes down in the midst of a large array of AoE damage from LGD. The Shallow Grave, once again proving that it's just not to be that useful. The Shadow Poison is the real problem there. But they picked the Dazzle into the Shadow Demon, so I'd say it's not like they got counterpicked. They just made a support pick that it's rather weak in the face of what LGD has. And that's a mid-tier 1 also going the way of LGD. They're losing map control bit by bit here, and particularly if and when they're able to take out the top tier 1, Burning's farm is really going to suffer. As long as that top tier 1 is still available, his ability to farm the jungle is pretty decent, because all DK has to do is to keep this entrance, or really these 2 entrances to the jungle warded, to watch for the approach of LGD. But these are underfarmed supports. Naked Boots on MMY, as well as wards and a smoke. QQQ, basically the same story. Boots and sentries, nothing else. DD on Jakiro, he's at least able to pick up a bracer, helping out his survivability a lot. And a 4-staff is incoming on DDC. It'll be a while before it's finished, but he's got the Staff of Wizardry. Smoke up onto 4 here by DK. They would love to make something happen, and they're just going to leave Burning up at top to continue farming. They're putting a lot of hope into him, kind of reverting back to their their 4 Protect 1 instincts, buying as much time as possible, and I don't know if that will really pay off. Oh, Xiao 8. He's got his reverse polarity up. If he finds DK here, and they have to know that there's more than one here because there's a ward here, so they would have seen the approach of MMY
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
towards that secret shop.
Radiant structure
And if there's one that smoked,
Dire's
there were
bottom
definitely
tower
2.
is under attack. Radiant's top
LGD looks to
tower
be
is
making a bit of a
fortified.
trade here with the top tier 1 versus the bottom tier 2. Favors LGD, but question is,
Dire's
yeah, with
structures
a Fortify popped,
fortified.
won't be able to finish off the tower, but they get a lot of damage onto it, and they force out the Fortify, so they can potentially push into another lane, if they so choose. BKB also coming up on Xiao 8. I think a pretty sensible choice. With the very close range stuns of MMY and Super. Wants to be sure that he's going to be landing the perfect first polarity, and BKB is the only way to make sure that that's going to happen. Also looks to be a BKB on Sylar. There's going to be a lot of BKBs in this game. Unless that Ogre Club turns into something else, but it's not going to. I know how this story ends. It's the same every time. I wish it were not so.
Radiant's bottom tower.
I tend to, I mean, you know, I understand the necessity of BKB in the game, and it's not always such a sad item to see, but it can be a little frustrating to see every carry go for it every game, and not even just every carry, but all the initiators, the semi carries. It's all over the place. Spoke up on 4 here from LGD. No vision of that for DK. And there's also no sentries up. They could take out Burning pretty easily here. Oh, there's a reverse polarity blown on Burning. Oh, the chain stun is likely to be perfect. The Shallow Grave will save him for the time being. He's able to time lapse. Actually, he could make it out. Oh, there's a hook shot in from ROTK. He traps DDC. Defensive Disruption is used. Will save his life for the time being. Echo Slam used only lands on DDC, so a little bit wasted by MMY, and his Unstable Concoction lands on 2. Burning, he's able to finish off DDC, so he's picking up a kill here. Overextension, or really I should say overextension. Good response from DK. And actually, QQQ goes down. Gets finished off from the Acid Spray. Skewer out from Xiao 8. LGD wants to disengage here, and it looks like they'll be able to successfully do so. Really close fight, and I would say very
Dire's bottom tower is under
the Shallow Grave finally showed its worth there. That was why Burning was able to survive that fight, and with the time lapse he was able to undo most of the damage that was done to him, and that allowed him to secure the kill on DDC. So LGD only lose one support for their troubles, and QQQ also went down there. So in terms of kills, it was an even trade, but it is reverse polarity down, and a fair amount of time spent from LGD. There were several TPs beat by DK, so it was a costly fight on both sides.
Dire's bottom tower has been
Burning,
denied.
he denies the bottom tier 2. Again, not the bottom towers for Dire side are. I guess it's probably equal in terms of their uselessness compared to the Radiant side. Both of these towers provide very little access to anything important. Maybe the bottom tier 2 is slightly more valuable than the tier 1 just because it provides another form of access to the Roche pit, but really it's nothing that the top tier 2 or the mid tier 2 doesn't provide. RTK has his hookshot. Oh, there's a reverse polarity up again. Skewer back on RTK. Does not get put into the... Oh, it doesn't matter. Immediate buyback from RTK. He wants to get back in this fight and use his hookshot. Burning gets sprouted. Fisher completely whiffs. LGD wants to cleanly disengage here, especially with RTK buying back. Chooses not to port back up to top, though, I think realizing that there was no more fight available. So a decent kill for LGD. Plus they force out the buyback, so it ends up being more costly, especially with, I think, given that RTK did not make it back to the fight in time, that buyback was not worth it, and so that's going to delay his BKB, because it also appears that RTK is going for his own BKB. There's going to be at least 4, possibly 5 to 6 BKBs in this game. I'm just going to let you dwell on that for a little bit. Oh, Dust lands on Sylar, but the hookshot misses. Unfortunate. Ice Path lands on 3. Oh, this could be a big unstable concoction. Lands on 3. Oh, that's really bad. But LGD are not really able to take this fight. They don't have the reverse polarity because they blew it solo on rotk. That looked to be a really nice combination of stuns from LGD, but they just didn't have the follow-up. Their only damage really is in Magnus and Alchemist right now. They're still waiting on some of Yao's farm. He's finished that mechanism and is working his way towards a Scythe of Vice. When he has that, he'll be a lot more relevant in these fights. But without him there at exactly the right time, and really until he finishes that Scythe of Vice, he's just not going to be dealing the damage and the disable that they really need him to. This is buying a lot of time for DK. I mean, the gold, it is 6,000 in favor of LGD and about 5,000 experience. So LGD maintain a strong lead, especially with 3 towers down versus 1 in favor of DK. So they've got a little more map control. But that said, DK, they're on the dire side, and it's possible for them to do a Roche at some point in the near future. Now, I saw a medallion, I believe. Oh, that's on Burning. I love medallion on Weaver. I think it's a fantastic item. I'm not personally a big fan of Lincoln Sphere. It's just a really expensive item that provides little damage and kind of mediocre survivability. It's not a bad item. It's just so frequently you'll see carries rush to Lincoln Sphere, and it doesn't feel like they're doing anything more. It's basically a slightly stat heavier version of a BKB. And ostensibly a lot less useful for what you actually want for a BKB. The medallion, however, it increases his physical damage by a lot and gives him the mana regen that he needs, because Weaver really does want to be spamming his Shikuchi and the Swarm as often as possible, and 50% mana regen is really all he needs to keep doing that. There's a ward here from DK, so they see the approach of LGD. Burning will not be in any trouble. LGD wants to take out this top tier 1, which I think is the right idea. They want to take control of DK's jungle and slow down Burning's farm. At the moment, Burning is matched evenly with Sylar, which is pretty noteworthy given that this is an Alchemist who's got 2 points in Greevil's Greed. His build is a little weird. He had 3 points in Unstable Concoction just before. Oh, there's a smoke up on DK here. There's no okay, that is a sentry. That's one of the things about some of the ward cosmetics is it's a little harder to immediately identify outside of the, obviously the big blue eye. But sometimes I get confused. It's bad. Oh, DDC, he's gonna get caught out here. Eats the Dragon Tail. He'll go down before he's able to use the disruption. Reverse polarity on 2, gets skewered back into the rest of LGD. This could be a bad fight for DK. But Super, he's dropping really low. He's standing in the macro pyre, taking a lot of damage. Burning, can he find a kill here? rotk, he's trapped inside the Ice Path. He goes down. Echo Slam onto 2 from MMY. Can Burning find a kill here? He finishes off Yao, so that's a very important kill for him. He's still got... Oh, that doesn't even disjoint it? Wow, I didn't realize that. Big mistake by Burning. He honestly just should have kept running. Wow, so Burning probably could have lived through that with a little better use of his Shikuchi and the time-lapse. Perhaps thinking that the time-lapse would disjoint the Unstable Concoction, but as far as I know, there's nothing that actually disjoints that. So it will always land regardless of where you move. Really good fight for LGD. They end up taking that... It's at least a 3-for-1. As well as the top tier 1 as well. As well. A very awkward engagement overall. I think using a lot of the burst damage on DDC was maybe not the best idea for DK. Taking out Shadow Demon is really important, and getting rid of the disruption as well as the Soul Catcher is a big deal. Because, I mean, DDC really has been having a big impact in these fights, but they kind of went all in on that, and then they got reverse polarity and skewered into the rest of LGD, setting up for a nice Macropyre and Ice Path from DD. I think the team fight from LGD is just a lot stronger, especially given the farm disadvantage that, yeah, 10,000 gold now in favor of LGD, and that means that DK is just not going to be having a good time in these team fights. And the late game doesn't really, you know, we're at 30 minutes now. We're going to be making it to the late game. The question is, how far into the late game? The ability for DK to stop pushes from LGD is going to diminish as this game progresses. It really depends a lot on Alchemist farm. Once he gets his AC, their pushing will be a lot better. And actually, this looks to be a refresher coming up on Zhao 8, and that's going to be even deadlier for DK. I don't think they can withstand 2 reverse polarities. But Yao, he's also another factor here. He's getting close to finishing his Scythe of Vice. His death in that last fight was unfortunate, and I don't think he bought back.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And Super, so he's also building a BKB. Okay, let's take a second here. BKB on rotk, BKB on Burning, BKB on Super. Zhao 8, Sylar. Okay. So that's five BKBs so far in this game, or at least they're on their way. God damn. Whatever. Are DK looking to take a Roche here? They've smoked up. There's no vision here from LGD, and since they've got the medallion, they can go through this pretty quickly. There's also a Demon Edge up on Burning, so his damage is a little bit better, but good map awareness from LGD. They've got the reverse polarity. LGD cannot be grouped up in that Roche pit and allow Zhao 8 to blow them all to bits, because that's exactly what would happen. Another nice combo that LGD has is the unstable concoction after the reverse polarity. When they're all when DK's all grouped up like that, they're all going to get hit by the concoction, and that's a big problem. So LGD, they stop the Roche and look to take out this mid tier 2. The Fortify is still available, but I don't think it's still hard for DK to teamfight. Oh, another missed hookshot from RTK. Very unfortunate. That would have been a good initiation, especially as long as his tower is still available. Dragon Form popped on Super. Purge is used on RTK, as well as the Soul Catcher. Good BKB usage by Burning will stop the unstable concoction. There's a Fisher onto DDC. A quick kill here. Oh, but nice defensive disruption. DC does not make it out, but he buys some time for the rest of his team. Reverse polarity on 2 from Zhao 8. Skewers them back into the Ice Path. Oh, it's deadly! The unstable concoction onto 3 there. Ah, oh, it's just, I can feel the burn, the terrible burn of LGD. They once more kind of diving for DDC. They thought that was a free kill, but they couldn't take him out fast enough. He managed to get the defensive disruption off, which bought time for the rest of LGD to set up a really perfect. I mean, that was just awesome. I mean, the reverse polarity onto 2, skewered 3 into the Ice Path, unstable concoction afterwards. DK never had a chance. And by that point, did Burning go down in that fight? I don't think he did. Managed to live, but... Or maybe he just respawned. I have a hard time keeping track. I really wish this fucking combat log would go back further. Would be lovely. Nevertheless, it's a 4-for-1 and a Roche, as well as a mid-tier 2 for LGD. And I believe, yep, that's an Aegis up on Sylar. He's finished his AC, and he's got 2100 gold after that. He's all kinds of fat and sassy. DD's had a Ghost Scepter for a little while, which I think is a nice pickup versus Burning. DDC has his 4 staff. I think he had that in that last fight. Refresher just around the corner for Zhao 8. I think that's the death bell for DK. I don't think they can withstand 2 reverse polarities. Scythe of Ice also finished on Yao. Farm 14,000 gold, 12,000 experience in favor of LGD. It's looking pretty dark for DK here. RGK has had this Ogre Club for easily 10 to 15 minutes now. Has not been able to complete it into the BKB that he wanted. There's no Blink Dagger on the way for MMY. The eternal struggles of Earthshaker as a support. Never able to finish his Blink Dagger. And it would be strong in this game if you were able to get it. BKB is finished on Super. Nice Fisher will block Sylar in, but he's got that Aegis, so he's pretty content being aggressively positioned here. Going to town on this tier 3. The Fortify's already been used. Oh, there's a nice hook shot onto sylar though. This is, I don't know if this is the ideal target. Defensive disruption delays the damage on sylar. Wow, rotk goes down, no trouble. Big reverse polarity on 3, skewered back. Oh, that's gotta be it. Nice echo slam from MOY, but wow, shall wait. His reverse polarities over and over again were fantastic, and this is why Magnus is still a top pick in China. If you land these reverse polarities, it can just completely, I mean, set up for an infinite wombo combo from LGD. Wow, it is really fun to watch. I got a little over much with how much Magnus was getting picked. But watching a good Magnus land big reverse polarities is a lot of fun, and LGD used it perfectly. Their lineup really paid off in all respects there, and I think this is probably a case of DK just getting outdrafted and outlaned too. Not getting kills in an aggressive tri-lane means you're losing the tri-lane. I mean, Burning was getting a lot more farm than sylar, so I shouldn't say it was a loss. It was pretty much a wash, but up until the point that LGD started getting kills with the rotation from Zhao 8. So I think it was the aggressive tri-lane didn't pay off for DK. It wasn't a good idea, especially with an Earthshaker Dazzle. They just didn't have the damage. And Dazzle, the pick really didn't pay off here. There was just too many sources of damage over time to deal with the Shallow Grave. I mean, they had the Shadow Poison, they had Dual Breath, Acid Spray. A lot of sources of damage over time, and not to mention the Macropyre. Didn't even think about that. And against damage like that, Shallow Grave is not particularly useful. I think there was really only one use that it really saw the light of day, and that was when it was put onto Burning. And Burning, he just played so cautiously. It was, you can play Weaver really aggressively, that's something we've been seeing in the West a lot. Is they'll get the Treant Protector. Sorry, I've got a thunderstorm going on in the background, which apparently that should be appropriate for this game. If you get the Treant Protector with Weaver, then Weaver can go for some crazy dives. But Burning is not a diving kind of guy. He's going to farm. And going aggressive with their lanes, I don't think fit to DK's playstyle.